Hello and welcome back to the third instalment of the Fussball and Calcio edition of A Clear and Obvious podcast. In a week that saw a high-scoring, thrilling Milan derby.
And Jurgen Klinsmann leave his role as Hertha Berlin manager.
This is A Clear and Obvious podcast. So it's all been happening, really, isn't it? We've had a couple of big games going on, managerial changes.
Yeah, no, it's been a big week for upsets. Definitely, our predictions kind of went out the window.
They didn't go great, did they? Yeah. Hopefully the graphic will be out on how our predictions went last week, and you'll see how badly we do again this week.
Yeah, no, it wasn't ideal, but got a cheeky little dub at the end of the predictions.
You did, yeah, and that was on a Serie A game, but you'll see if you see the graphic on Twitter. So
spoilers.
Head on over to A Clear and Obvious pod if that's what you're into. Should we kick things off with the Serie A then? Crack on.
Let's do it. Yeah, crack on.
Right, so the big game obviously was the Milan derby. Inter officially at home in this one with the majority of the fans. Did you see the tifo that they had?
Oh yeah, the huge that was
the devil running away.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
So can I give you a little bit of context?
Sure.
I've not prepped anything, so it's gonna be quite off the cuff. But basically, so Inter's kind of not mascot, I don't want to say, but it's like their animal that's sort of representative to them is a snake. It's all to do with historical religion and all this sort of thing, and I'm not 100% sure on the literal background of it. And Milan's is a devil. And previously, Milan have had a devil ripping apart a snake and hitting a snake and all this sort of thing. So this time they had a devil running away from a horse. Basically, it's all very animal related, and it's sort of this sort of petty getting back at each other each time. But they all look pretty good, I think. It sounds quite strange, but yeah, no, it's I like the symbolism of it. Exactly. So there's your history for you. There's your history lesson, kids. But yeah, onto the game itself. Inter won 4-2 despite going 2-0 down in the first half. Milan looked good early on. They looked really good. They looked like a team that properly turned up for a Milan derby. They looked good. They went 2-0 up early on. Rebic got the first one. Ball was sort of swung into Zlatan, headed back across goal, and third choice keeper, who, as Pandanovic was out with a hairline fracture, and their other keeper happened to be suspended.
Benny,
that's him. And yeah, no, he came out to try and claim the ball, completely missed it, and the ball was put across for Rebic. And that was 1-0 Milan. And then from there, Zlatan again causing mayhem in the box. 38-year-old Zlatan causing real issues. Nodded one in as Padelli comes sort of across goal, diving completely the wrong way, makes a real hash of it and can't quite get there. He should have done better on both goals, and he looked like a keeper kind of lacking confidence and lacking any sort of conviction in any of his saves. He should, as I say, should have done better. But Milan, they dominated the first half and Inter struggled going forwards, which was uncharacteristic of them this season. Not having Lautaro Martinez in that partnership with Lukaku was missed dearly in that first half. Having no focal attacking midfielder who seemed to control the game also wasn't amazing. Barrea wasn't doing brilliantly. Brozovic was obviously sat in his holding role. You're right there, Sam.
Yeah,
chair creaking a tad.
My chair's going a bit crazy.
Yeah,
Carry on.
They need to replace the chairs. Milan looked good for the first half, but the second half, Inter came out fighting and made it brilliant. They came out with Brozovic hitting an absolute wonder strike. Ball comes out to him at the edge of the box and he plucks it out of the sky with his left foot, controls it and puts it into the far corner.
Brilliant goal.
Incredible goal. No, it was a really good finish, to be fair. He didn't hit it kind of, with a load of power, but he sort of guided it into that far corner. Placed it, indeed, yeah. No, he looked great. It was a really good goal and kind of deserved after how they came out in the second half, because Milan didn't really seem to start the second half particularly well. And Conte clearly got into that Inter side and really must have galvanised them to go back out there and do well in the second half. Vicino, then a couple of minutes later, grabbed a quick equaliser after Sanchez, who looked really good all game, surprisingly. He was busy, he was running around a lot, he got on the ball well, he looked sharp the whole game. sort of played it back to him, and Vicino put it in. He looked almost offside for it. It was very marginal. Some angles show it offside, some angles show it onside, but VAR ultimately allowed the goal to stand, despite at first glance it looking like Sanchez was far offside. And then from there, Milan didn't look like they could get back into the game. Attacking-wise, Chanaloglu went missing. Kessie was getting absolutely ruined the entire game. I don't really rate him, to be honest. I don't think he's very good, but he played first half quite well. But second half, their midfield was non-existent. Defensively, they looked sluggish. And then the third goal came from from a cross. Inter would be looking dangerous from set pieces all game, and a ball came into De Vrij, falling away from goal, past the penalty spot, directs it, loops it into the far corner. Brilliant header. And then Milan came back a little bit, had a couple of decent chances, but nothing that they could really show as a decent chance in the second half. They didn't really do brilliantly, and the fourth was sealed by Lukaku from a Victor Moses cross. As he came on.
Victor Moses, what a signing! What a player!
Yeah, didn't start the game, but was brought on, and he sort of floated the ball up to Lukaku, and Lukaku absolutely bullied Simon Kjaer. And then the Lukaku celebration, I'm assuming you saw it.
That was magnificent. He is the king of Milan.
It was iconic, wasn't it? It's something we'll look back on in years to come as maybe a turning point in the title race, if anything.
Yeah. Looking back as one of the iconic celebrations, that and Bentner taking the shorts off to reveal the Paddy Power pants in the World Cup.
Some of the best celebrations we've seen in our time. But yeah, no, into top of the table now. They go top on goal difference ahead of Juventus. We'll get to that in a little bit. But
wow.
They deservedly sit top of the table after after struggling first half. They came back and 4 goals in the second half. You can't complain, really. Another entertaining Milan derby. The one earlier this season didn't really live up to the hype, but overall that fixture is seen as a huge one. But yeah, no, it was massive in the context of the league. Milan stay in 10th, I believe, mid-table. They sit around there still. Pioli still under threat for his job, which I find bizarre because he's actually doing all right. But yeah. Let's move on to... So we got a couple of 3-2 away wins with our next 2 games. We'll kick things off. Tasty indeed. A couple of 5-goal thrillers. Our first one sees us at San Paolo. Lecce beat Napoli 3-2, and Lecce looked really good.
What a team. Lecce. Yeah. They're going for Champions League this year. They really
Champions League. They're really good. Little plug, I've done an article for the World Football Index on them, on how well they've done. I was actually writing it before they beat Napoli, so I'm kind of a genius.
It's not really relevant though, is it?
I could just clip that in, but yeah, sure, we'll roll with that. It is relevant because they beat Napoli 3-2 and they look really good, despite giving up 25 shots to a wasteful Napoli. They look brilliant going forwards. Lapadula got a couple. He's sort of a
what a name! What a name!
Gianluca Lapadula.
Oh.
I know, I'm Italian. Got a brace. Looked very good. He's got a sort of a clinical finisher. He scored after Milik grabbed one in between to equalise. He grabbed one. He was sort of ball put in. He does his best to try and miss it. Comes in sort of on his left foot and he chips it up and he's literally 3 yards out, completely open goal, and it hits the underside of the bar and goes in. Not the most lethal strike, but however it goes in, it goes in. Both Barak and both of their 2 new signings, Antonin Barak and Riccardo Saponara, they both look really good. Saponara particularly got on the ball a lot, created loads of key chances, and generally in the game looks really exciting. Barak the same, more of a box-to-box midfielder, but they both look really good. And the third goal was an absolute wonder goal. It was Marco Manconzu, their still joint top scorer. I believe he's on 7 at the minute. Scored from a free kick from about 30 yards out. He sort of steps out to an absolute bullet of a strike, hits the inside of the post and goes in. And that season go 3-1 up. And really, they didn't look as if they were under any threat Lecce the whole game. Despite Callejon scoring over a kick, it seemed too little too late for them. And that was 3-2, and Napoli never really looked like getting back into it.
Yeah, Gattuso, he came in. We described him as terrible. You get a few wins, we think, maybe he's a good manager after all.
Maybe he's not a fraud.
Yeah, next game loses to a relegation-threatened side, and I think I'm back to thinking he's a rubbish manager. Terrible appointment.
Nice to see we've got strong opinions and we stick with them.
Exactly, we are consistent. To be fair,
they're not clear and obvious opinions, are they?
Oh yeah, he's very hit and miss. I still don't like him. To be fair, even when they were winning, I didn't think he was a good manager. I think he got lucky.
Yeah, that seems fair. I reckon, with this Napoli team, it is whether they click or not. He got into them at half-time, brought on Mertens, who looked a little bit... he didn't look sluggish when he came on. He looked all right. He looked fairly bright. And changing that up, then saw Milik score. So and he got the assist for actually Mertens. So changing that up brought in a little bit of life to the Napoli side. But at the minute, it's just a dysfunctional team that's just not working at the minute. And that's their issue. It's a team that's got no real chemistry to it, no real... link-up play to it. They all seem like a team of individuals. Koulibaly's first game back from injury, he looked slow. None of them looked great, and Lecce ran them right the whole game. But we've got another 3-2.
Oh my goodness!
I know another of the big teams being taken down by a smaller team. This one sees us go to Rome, sees us go to the capital. Bologna visiting, winning 3-2. It was a really good game. Again, another 5-goal thriller. Roma struggling a little bit recently. They did okay in the Rome derby, but since then they've not been amazing. They struggled to pick up some form. They lost to Sassuolo last week. Defensively, they're pretty leaky. Chris Smalling, just for you English listeners, has had a bad couple of games. So if you hear people constantly...
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. He's still better than Maguire. He's getting in the England squad. I don't care. Him and O'Connell from Sheffield United and Lewis Dunk are going to be our back three, just because why not?
Can I get back to the game, please?
Yes.
But for all you English listeners, right, as much as you hear Chris Smalling being raved about, he has been good, but in 2020, he's been awful. He has...
Harsh.
Okay, against Lazio, he was good.
Okay,
in 2020, he's been awful. I'm sorry.
But do you think that also coincides with his team performing poorly?
True, but I think he's part of his team performing poorly. I don't think it's because his team performing poorly.
Would you say so? You'd say he's like a cause of his team?
Yeah.
Would you?
I'd say individually he's not been great. Him and Mancini at the back haven't looked like they've had the same partnership they have for the start of the season. It just seems like they're trying to find their way back into form. Smalling, just individual errors are characterising these last couple of games for him and Mancini, to be fair to him. But neither have been amazing, and defensively they're pretty woeful. They haven't got an awful lot of protection from midfield, which is something I'll come on to when I review the game, because Brian Cristante is a typical holding midfielder who likes to be more of a deep playmaker rather than a ball winner, and I feel like they're struggling without that clear ball winner in midfield. But yeah, enough on Chris Smalling, because he's not the only Roma player.
Oh, no, I'd like to bring it back to Chris Smalling. Okay. Would you think this sounds like a big excuse, and you'll just go, well, no, like that's an excuse.
I won't.
But do you think that his form? You say that ever since the winter break, say he hasn't been as good. Would you say that he's come for the English league? He's never had a winter break before. Do you think that could, like, the winter break could have potentially affected how he's playing?
Completely. I completely agree with you on that. I think that is part of it. I don't think he's used to having a winter break. And I certainly don't think it's helped his form, but I wouldn't necessarily put it solely down to that. But I do think it could be a cause as to why he started this year so slowly. Don't get me wrong, he's not been completely awful, but the fact that there's so many Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts raving about how good he's been, and he should go to the Euros. But this isn't Chris Smalling watch, but he has been very good up until now, and recently he's sort of tailed off a little bit. So I thought I'd update you on that.
But it's all right, guys. He'll get better.
He'll get better, but in this game, he got torn apart by Moussa Barrow.
Who's a good winger.
He is a good winger, yeah. But
give him credit.
He is. He's very good. No, I'm going to give him more than just credit, mate. He's looked brilliant. But Orsolini opened the scoring for them. He's been their best player so far this season, playing out on the right, coming inside. He's looked brilliant. He's got, I believe, 7 goals and 5 assists this season. He's looked brilliant. He looks incredible all game, as he has all season. Unfortunately, a Denswil own goal gave Roma the equaliser. It was completely undeserved. Roma didn't look like they were going to score, and Bologna had the majority of the chances up until that point, but it was 1-1. And Barrow then turned on the style, coming in from that left-hand side. He'd been causing them problems every time that Bologna had gone forwards. His pace, his trickery, they just couldn't deal with it. And his deflected finish, he sort of cuts in, deflects off, is it David Santon, I think it deflects off. I can't be 100% sure on that. But it deflected finish, goes in, and then Barrow again, fairly quickly afterwards, cutting in from that left-hand side. he absolutely ruined David Santon the entire game. And I'm not sure that Roma have the coverage at right back that they think they do. I don't think they can just get rid of Florenzi and rely on David Santon for the entire season, because if they come up against a quick winger, Santon's being exposed, and this game was a trademark of that. He got absolutely torn by him. He cuts inside for this absolute worldie of a goal. Turns Chris Smalling inside out, who was at fault for the first goal. Smalling was. The ball was put into Orsolini, and it goes straight past Smalling, and he kind of doesn't really deal with it. He almost lets it go across his goal. But yeah, that was the first goal. This third goal, Barrow, absolute screamer, running in from a left-hand side, cuts in and tucks it in beautifully into the far corner. Mkhitaryan, who started just in behind Edin Dzeko, scored a rare header, to make it 3-2. Cross came in, sort of front post, flicked it on. And that sort of gave him a lifeline. But Brian Cristante, as I mentioned earlier, got a red card. Fairly rash challenge. And that hampered the host's chances of really getting back into the game. And Bologna saw out a win that puts them on the brink of European qualification, which is incredible.
That's mad. That's mad.
Hellas Verona currently occupy that spot, but Bologna sit just 1 point behind them. And I think they can get it, to be honest with you. They've looked really good going forwards. Defensively, they've brought in Denswell, who, while he's scored an own goal, has looked solid prior to now. Going forwards, they're no longer just relying on Palacio as that pinnacle up top, but I'll get on to their attack later, because there's a section of the podcast where I want to talk about Musa Barrow more. So, yeah, there you go. There's a little spoiler for you all. Do you want to get onto the Bundesliga?
I just want to ask quickly.
Okay,
there's going to be English football fans who are wondering, how has Mkhitaryan been playing for Roma? Would you say he's had? Because from my point of view, I'd say he's had a very hot and cold season, and he's had bright moments, but I think that they haven't been often enough or consistent enough.
Sure. So when he first went to Rome, he started off playing fairly well. He scored a couple of goals, got a couple of assists, looked pretty good. That was when he was mainly playing out wide and Kluivert was on the bench. They had Zaniolo and Under as their sort of front three just in behind Dzeko, and he looked pretty good. And then he kind of tailed off a little bit, so they brought Kluivert back into the starting lineup. And he wasn't playing brilliantly. As you say, he was a bit hot and cold, quite inconsistent. But now that, unfortunately, Nicola Zaniolo has picked up this long-term injury, Mkhitaryan's going to get more and more chances in that more attacking role, because they've also got Perotti, who likes to play out left. So the likelihood of Mkhitaryan now getting an out left with Justin Kluivert and Perotti both holding down that position, really, is fairly slim. So I think Mkhitaryan playing just in behind the striker could work quite well. And I'm actually more hopeful for him now. This sounds bad, that Zaniolo's got injured, because he'll get more of a chance in a free roaming role, which wasn't something he was given at Arsenal, nor was he at Dortmund. He's been trademarked for being playing out wide, but he didn't look too bad when he came on. As I say, he popped up with a goal. But hopefully, I mean, yeah, he's not been amazing, but he's been fairly inconsistent. But hopefully, despite them losing, he did get a goal, so hopefully that'll boost his confidence a little bit and get back into it. But yeah, that's all on Henrik Mkhitaryan. You good to go on to the Bundesliga?
Yeah, no, sure. Right, I'm going to start with the first game of the weekend. Start with Frankfurt against Augsburg, and it was going into it. You looked at this game, you thought, oh, this is going to be quite a tight affair. You could see Frankfurt were playing well. Augsburg, kind of mid-table team. Frankfurt in a similar position. So you thought it'd be quite a mid-table game, or like a tight game, sorry. But it ended up being an absolute demolition. So Augsburg started the game, like first 30 minutes they dominated. They had more of the ball, they created chances, and Trapp made some good saves for Frankfurt. Then after the 30th minute, like Frankfurt kind of took control, and Chandler scored, put Frankfurt ahead, who's played through by one of the centre-backs, and smacked it in the near post, like unstoppable. It was like high into the roof of the net at the front post, and that's then Frankfurt kind of like built a bit of momentum, and then Frankfurt got another to make it 2-0. Of course they didn't. Augsburg didn't score. That's
naturally.
5-0 was the final score. Don't know if I've said that.
Didn't mention.
Did I mention that?
No, you didn't. You didn't mention the scoreline. You just said it was a battering. But yeah, 5-0.
1-0
at half time. There we go.
Pull yourself together. But yeah, Timothy Chandler got his second of the game to make it 2-0. It was a header from the corner. Bit of it was given to Chandler, right? I think it could have been. I'd have personally called it an own goal. So basically the header comes in, and it hits the bar, and it bounces down, hits skims the goalkeeper's back, and then bounces on the line and goes in. However, I think without the touch of his back, I think it's not going in. So would you define that as an own goal?
I'd say so, yeah. It changed the flight of the ball completely. I mean, that was the cause. If that's the cause of the goal, then surely, if we are the dubious goals panel over here, then I reckon we give that an own goal.
Exactly. So I would have personally called it a own goal, but he got awarded the goal.
Yeah.
And that's his 4th goal in 4 games. And the incredible stat is, so he's got 4 and 4. But then before this game, he'd scored just 2 goals in 79 matches. He's just doubled his goal tally in 75 less games. That's unbelievable.
That's an unreal stuff.
But he really has started the new year really well. He has been really great and key to Frankfurt's form. Andre Silva, then it's Andre
Silva,
who signed from of course AC Milan, who you'll know well as the deal with Rebic, who went the other way. And he scored a header from the centre of the box, assisted by Kostic. That was Kostic's 2nd assist of the game. That was to make it 3-0. Then 4-0. Kostic scored, popped up. Definitely a deserved goal. Kostic
came late in the game, didn't he?
Yeah, it came quite late in the game. He deserved a goal, and he really. His creativity, every attack went through him. And when last season, when all the players left, it was kind of he was the player that was going to push Frankfurt forward and keep them in the division as a mid-table to a Europa League side, because he's got a lot of quality. So he got his goal. A cross came in, and it was kind of missed by everyone in the box, and then he comes in and just half volleys it into the bottom corner, drills it bottom corner. Brilliant finish. And then after that, Augsburg absolutely collapsed. I mean, you'd think they'd collapsed already, but then
4-0, yeah.
At 4-0, but from the kick-off of that goal, they lost the ball within a matter of seconds. Frankfurt drive forward, and the ball falls to Pacienza, who took a touch, and it wasn't a great touch, right? It was the touch was going away from his body, but he had an open goal, so he would have still scored. But then steaming in comes Kostic, who after that touch taps it in, and Pacienza was not happy about it.
Fuming, I can imagine.
Kostic goes off to celebrate the goal with his teammates. Meanwhile, Pacienza walks back to the halfway line on his own, really grumpy. It was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Kevin Trapp, you'd think at a 5-0, you'd be highlighting Chandler and Kostic. And I will highlight Kostic more later. But Chandler... And of course Chandler did play well, but I think and in the 5-0 you don't even really mention it, but Kevin Trapp was really good. In the first 30 minutes when Augsburg were on top, he made some really great saves and really kept, not necessarily, they didn't create that many chances that he kept them in the game, but he made some good saves that kept them.
Make sure it was out of sight.
Exactly, and he played very well in what was Frankfurt's best ever start to the second half of the Bundesliga season. They've taken 10 points from a possible 12, which is brilliant for them, only dropping points to Fortuna Düsseldorf, who are relegation zone. But
because they were struggling a little bit at the start of the season, weren't they? But it seems to have picked up since the New Year's
at the start of the season, you're looking at them thinking, oh no, they might go down.
Properly cave in.
Exactly. They were in trouble. But yeah, they've definitely picked up form. Picked up a bit of momentum, and ignoring that blip against Düsseldorf, they beat RB Leipzig the game before. It's funny that they went from beating RB Leipzig so convincingly, then drawing with Dusseldorf. And I thought that possibly after that they might, that result might kind of shake them a bit and they go back to their old ways. But I don't think they have. They were brilliant against Augsburg, and yeah, it was a great result for them, a great performance. Moving on to second game, quite relevant today, as I'll explain in a minute. But Hertha Berlin against Mainz. Mainz came out away winners, 3-1. And I guess the main points of the game was Quaison got a hat-trick. His first, he curled it past the keeper 1-on-1. He then got an open goal, which was cut back to him. Hertha Berlin had a bit of hope when I'd described it as a Broomerang goal, but some people are giving it to Boyata. Scored, so Hertha Berlin had a bit of hope at 2-1, but then late in the game, Wolf gets a second yellow card, formerly of Borussia Dortmund, if I'm not mistaken. Gets a second yellow card and gets sent off for not a great tackle. But then Mainz's third goal was quite strange, actually. It was a ball over the top, and two Hertha Berlin players went for it, one of which was offside, and the one who was offside went towards the ball and then kind of stopped before he got to the ball, knew he was offside, and then the other player picks up the ball.
Smart.
And runs and gets taken out in the box. VAR had a look at it and said it was fine. It was quite a controversial way to get a penalty. But yeah, it resulted in the penalty after VAR, and Quaison took that and of course scored to get his hat trick and to pick up a good result for Mainz, who were below Hertha Berlin in the table, and this result pushes them much closer. Bear in mind they were very close to the relegation zone. They were just a matter of points off Fortuna Dusseldorf in the relegation playoffs. So it was a really important result for Mainz. Really good performance. But Hertha Berlin were very poor. They just didn't show the drive there was something about them. It just didn't look right. And since then, sorry, you want to say something?
I just wanted to ask something. How's Piontek been doing? Because did he score his debut? He's been quite good. He's given them more of a cutting edge up front. He's you in this Serie A said he wasn't performing well this season. Yeah. But he does look like he's playing well. But he needs. The problem with Hertha Berlin team is in the last game he didn't really have the support, if you know what I mean. So he didn't have he needs a bit of support to set him up with the goals. So he didn't in this game. But yeah, on his debut he scored, and he looks lively. He just hopefully Hertha Berlin can conjure up a bit more creativity. Sure.
But yeah, since this game today, in fact, when the podcast is going to be released, hopefully, and
fingers crossed.
Jürgen Klinsmann, the Hertha Berlin manager, resigned. As a matter of fact, not got sacked, resigned. And you might be thinking he's just been appointed, and you'd be right. He's only in charge 10 weeks, which is crazy. He oversaw 10 games in those 10 weeks. Quite strange.
Couldn't find those coaching badges, eh?
Exactly.
God.
No, it is quite funny after the controversy at the start. The first 2 weeks were just all about him, whether he has the in-date coaching badges, and now
if this proves anything, he doesn't.
Exactly. He's escaping before they find out he doesn't have.
That's it. Before he's caught.
Genius. But no, he while in charge, he turned him around. I'm not gonna lie. So Hertha Berlin at the start of the season, they were trying to build a project and push towards become one of the big clubs in Germany.
Really young team, yeah.
Exactly, and he oversaw 3 wins, 3 draws, and 4 losses, and that doesn't sound great. But if you bear in mind when he took over, they were in the relegation zone, and when he's left, they're 6 points clear of it. I'd say he's done a good job. Bear in mind as well, in the transfer window just gone, he spent 70 million euros on players. 70 million euros, that's crazy. and I think those players will keep them in the league. So they're gonna do their job, but I'm not sure. I don't know why Klinsmann has left. Right, there's not real. Apparently, he talked about not having the support and things like that. I think that might be from the players. I don't think maybe he thought that the
financially,
players
surely he's had the support.
Yeah, from the board it looks like he's had the support. But I think
massive backing,
necessarily from the players he hasn't had the support. But another stat is no team has kept more clean sheets since Jurgen Klinsmann's been appointed. They've kept 4 clean sheets out of 10, level with Bayern. That's very impressive. So he's defensively he's
a big loss. Yeah,
he's done well with them, and but he, despite resigning as manager, he goes back. So before he was around 4 weeks before he was appointed manager, he was put on the supervisory board at the club, and he prior to resigning, he's gone back to that role. So I think he didn't really enjoy the spotlight, maybe.
Yeah, being that one figure that people can blame if things go wrong, maybe, do you think?
Yeah, exactly. And in his last press conference, he was a bit... He was a bit... I don't know, he
Giving
was...
some indications that he might.
Yeah, he was not with it.
Yeah.
It came after midweek they played Schalke in the Cup, and one of their players, Turan Arriga, let's go with that,
sure.
was allegedly racially abused. And I think that kind of shook him and the players, because at the press conference he wasn't looking he wasn't looking great. He gave the players days off because of it, and it's an interesting move, and with no indication of who could be appointed instead. I think it's a quite interesting move, or as I said, it's a interesting decision from Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah, unless I've got anyone in the works, it does seem like a bit of a strange one, doesn't it? Who was your last game?
My last game it's Dortmund again, but the problem is with Dortmund is every week, because they can't defend, they concede loads, and because they have the best attack in the league. Yeah,
best attack in the league.
I'd say they have the best attack in the league.
That's fair. That seems like a fair assessment.
They score and concede a lot of goals. So this week they played Leverkusen 4-3. My friend who's a Leverkusen fan was messaging me during the game, devastated when Dortmund lost, but he was very happy. Shout out James. But Leverkusen, it's really frustrating because as someone who favours Dortmund as a team, Dortmund dominated the early bits of the game, but not Haaland. Oh my goodness, I talk about him too much. He's just in my head.
It's like a tick, isn't it?
Kevin Volland put Leverkusen in front. He's played through Kanji's, or not that harsh. Kanji didn't do very well with it, and brilliant finish into the bottom corner. Just a matter of about 90 seconds later, Mats Hummels scored his first goal on the return to Dortmund. A bullet header from a corner, really good. And from then Dortmund seized control, and the debutant Emre Can popped up with a incredible goal, 30 yards out, curled into the top corner. With his last goal in the Bundesliga, as he's returned from Juventus as a winter signing. The last time he was in the Bundesliga, he played for Leverkusen. So his last goal in the Bundesliga was in May 2014. For Leverkusen against Frankfurt. So it's funny that his first goal for Dortmund, his first goal back in the Bundesliga, was against his old club.
And an absolute worldie as well.
And an unbelievable goal. Just amazing goal to put him 2-1 in front. It was 2-1 at half time. You're thinking, things are going great. Was it 2-1 at half time?
It was 2-2 at half time. Yeah,
I'm
they nabbed one just before the break.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Volland, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Jonathan Tah chips it back to Volland, who volleyed past Berkey. People said Berkey could have done better. It's harsh. Went through a lot of bodies, but yeah, I'm sorry. Just before half time, I thought it was just after. yeah, they were 2-2, and at the break it was nothing to split the teams. But then the second half, Julian Brandt, who started, former Leverkusen player, of course, picked up a supposed knock, and so Lucien Favre brought on Rayner.
Yeah.
Rayner?
Giovanni Reyna, yeah.
Who a 17-year-old American winger, and you're thinking, is this a game for him? But yeah, Lucien Favre obviously had the trust in him, and
after scoring that worldie, to be fair,
yeah,
I mean,
he scored a brilliant goal in midweek. But yeah, I'll come on to it later why I'm not particularly happy with a lot of the things of this game. But then Sancho restored Dortmund's lead, although they thought this goal was a brilliant team goal, a really good goal, and they went to VAR, and not even near the play. The 17-year-old come on Raider pulled back Bender off the ball. No, he was never getting back. No, there was no possible chance. Usain Bolt wouldn't have got that. There was no chance he could have got back or influenced the play. But yeah, he fouled him in the build-up. So the goal was chalked off. Fairly or unfairly, you can decide about that. I think a foul's a foul. So if there's a foul in the build-up, should have been ruled out. He shouldn't have done it. He's an idiot. But yeah. But then Dortmund did go back in front. Leverkusen attacked. Kai Havertz had a 2-on-1, decided to be selfish and shot, and hit the post. And from that goal, it was almost like a Troy Deeney against Leicester. It was so Leverkusen hit the post up one end, and then Dortmund comes steaming up the other end, and
Troy Deeney!
It wasn't quite Troy Deeney.
No.
Not even similar. Guerrero,
Never mind.
the players playing left wing back, scored, put the ball in the bottom corner after a great counter attack, and yeah, Dortmund looked comfortable, and but that was until Leverkusen started a lot of energy, sapped out the Dortmund team, and Bailey put Leverkusen back in the game after a player was played through, had a shot. Emre Can, amazing recovery tackle, brilliant. The problem was that after the tackle, which it was preventing a goal, but it fell perfectly for Bailey, which was just really annoying. But yeah, so he cold passed Berkey to make it 3-0, and then about a minute later, Lars Bender was in the box for some reason, who put Leverkusen in front, and yeah, they won the game. And yeah, that's basically what happened. But the reason I'm not happy with it, there's a lot of
why aren't you happy?
There's a lot of things I'm not happy about in this game. So basically, first of all, Lucien Favre decided to start Emre Can. He'd started just 2 games for Juventus this year, so he wasn't match fit, and this was his debut for Dortmund. So you're thinking, oh, here we ease him in. So Emre Can played first half, was brilliant. Then you're thinking, oh, I'll take him off at half time. Didn't really off at half time. You're thinking, okay, fair enough, it's 2-2. And we go 3-2 ahead, and you think, oh, it's the best time, bring energy to make sure we don't concede. He brings them off in the 85th minute when we're 4-3 down. The 80... Oh, I'm going to shout.
Don't get it, don't shout.
I'm sorry.
The levels. Think of the levels.
I know.
Think of the people.
Yeah, but Emre Can, he honestly, it was so clear. Like, at 3-2 he was blowing.
Yeah.
How everyone could see this. The commentators could see this. The fans could see this. Everyone but Lucien Favre, who thought, we'll keep him on. And to be fair, he did a brilliant recovery tackle at that scoreline, but he just lost control of the game because of the fact that it was almost we had playing with 10 men.
Sort of stands out like a sore thumb, really, when there's a player on a pitch that's just so behind fitness-wise, as well as just completely run down, that it seems obvious to everyone except for, as you say, Lucien Favre.
Exactly. And then the other mistake, or the other thing that really annoyed
criticism.
Me... Exactly. Criticism, sorry. Is that... So, Dortmund's front three started with Brandt. Haaland got his first start in the league, I want to say, and Sancho, who, and you're thinking brilliant front three, fair enough. Brent got in. So when Brent picked up a knot, he played well first half. You think it, and he brings on Reina. He had Torgan Hazard on the bench, who's a winger, an experienced winger, one of the best wingers in the Bundesliga.
Bizarre.
And he brings on a 17-year-old, inexperienced, in one of the biggest games in Dortmund's season. A 17-year-old. And you're thinking, what? Which I thought was a bad decision. So it goes to 3-2. And you're thinking, okay, maybe he's made the right choice. But then it gets to 4-3. He brings on Torgan Hazard in the 85th minute at 4-3.
Was that for Chan?
That was for Chan as well.
So the subs that you wanted to happen happened at the 85th minute after your 4-3. That's shocking. That's not great.
It was so poor
in-game management,
and it was so irritating. But yeah, Lucien Favre took a big L on that one.
Took a big L.
But yeah, one of the things that I think I can defend him with, I'm not going to talk too much of it because of time, but I think that Lucien Favre I think Dortmund have a big problem. And I think that is they have too many great attacking players. So you might think, what are you talking about?
What a horrible problem.
Yeah.
Barry, shut up moaning. We've got too many attacking brilliant players.
The problem is, now, because we have so many brilliant attacking players and not as many great defensive players, Lucien Favre has to find a way to play all these great players. So Guerrero, who's naturally a winger, is playing left wing back. Hakimi, who's a right back, is playing
going forwards.
Is playing right wing back, but let's be real, is not brilliant defensively and much better going forward.
Sounds like he's stacking them in.
Exactly, and this is Torgan Hazard was on the bench for this game, and Royce was injured. So Royce wasn't even in the squad. That was probably nice for him because he didn't have because all these big players are wanting game time, and he can't guarantee it for them. And I think that's their problem. And I won't expand too long, or this podcast will be 3 hours long.
Exactly. Well, yeah, no, that's fair enough from you, mate. So shall we go on to our player of the week? Then we can go on to a sort of a league roundup and the rest of the fixtures that we'll just quickly rattle through. So. We'll go with my player of the week, as you have spoken for about 25 minutes.
Have I actually?
You have, yeah. I stopped speaking at 15 and you stopped speaking at 40.
Oh yeah.
That's all good. My player of the week, I'm going with Moussa Barrow, who I mentioned earlier. Looking really good. Didn't really get an awful lot of opportunities at Atalanta, which is fair enough because they've got a lot of incredibly good attacking footballers. Just not in the mould of Moussa Barrow, so I'd have kind of liked to see them stick with him because while Zapata's similar in the terms of he's pretty tall and strong, Barrow's got yards more pace than he does. But he got 2 goals and an assist in this particular game in their 3-2 win away at Roma. He's given Bologna this other focal point going forwards, as I mentioned earlier briefly. But it's quite interesting because Palacio's pretty wasteful with his chances. And they've got a couple of very good attacking midfielders in Riccardo Orsolini and Soriano. But in terms of having that genuine goal threat, it's something that they've lacked the majority of the season. And I feel like Moussa Barrow can really bring that because he's more direct than a lot of the other creative attacking midfielders that they've got. The majority of them like to play cutting-edge passes, but none of them really like to run at defenders an awful lot. And I feel like he brings a completely different facet, that's the word, isn't it, to their attack. I have no idea. It seems like the word. But yeah, he brings something completely different to their attack against a shaky Roma defence. As I say, he caused Santon nightmares all game. And his positive attacking play gives Bologna something else. But in this particular game, he was outstanding. His second goal was world class. If Messi had scored it, we'd be talking about it in 10 years' time. That's all I'm saying. But it was brilliant. But yeah, he's a deserved player of the week because he's not got an awful lot of game time this season. But every time he's come in for his new team, Bologna, he's performed brilliantly, and this game was a hallmark of that. Who are you going with? Sam?
I'm gonna Filip Kostic, the Serbian left winger who can also kind of do a shift at left wing back, who has been absolutely crucial in Frankfurt, being where they are and not being in a relegation battle. He's been been key to everything they've been doing this season. And in this game over Augsburg, he got 2 goals and 2 assists in a 5-0 win. I mean, I think that enough is worthy of getting Player of the Week.
Completely.
But his performance was brilliant. He created a lot of chances. He could have got more assists, honestly. He could have got more assists if his teammates weren't as, not wasteful, but if they'd...
bit more clinical.
Yeah, exactly. Been a bit more clinical. But no, he's been crucial this season. He's played 20 of the 21 matches, playing almost every game. And he's player of the week because he was just instrumental in their 5-0 win over Augsburg. And I've used that word too much on this podcast.
Oh, it's a brilliant word.
And yeah.
So that's Filip Kostic.
That's a fantastic summary, Sam.
That is great summary. All you need to do really is say his stats because they're a statement enough of how well he played. Let's go on to a little bit of a league roundup. We'll quickly run you through the rest of the fixtures. I feel like we've missed out quite a few because we obviously only go through 3. We can't cover all 10 or 9 if you're the
That's
Bundesliga.
why it's called 3 of the best.
Yeah, he's made them. No. So, yeah, the Friday game saw Roma, as I've mentioned a few times, lose 3-2 to Bologna at home. Saturday saw the early kickoff Fiorentina against Atalanta, which was a tasty affair. Unfortunately, Fiorentina in that game fell 2-1 to Atalanta. Chiesa got the goal for Fiorentina, an absolute worldie. Then Torino continue their struggles as they lose 3-1 at home to Sampdoria. They're pretty poor, even without... Mazzari. In the last podcast I called him Materazzi. He's definitely not Materazzi, it's Walter Mazzari. I apologise for that, Materazzi. Then Hellas Verona, which was another big one, which I didn't actually analyse, and I feel like I should give a little bit of time to, simply because it's Juventus and they lost to Hellas Verona. It's huge. It's massive for the top of the table.
And Fabio Borini.
You little dancer.
You little dancer.
Ah, he's brilliant. It was a really good goal, to be fair. Ronaldo's goal was good, but a penalty by Pazzini saw the hosts beat Juventus in a massive shock. And yeah, that didn't seem fair on that game to not get into the 3 of the best, so I figured I'd go through it in a little bit more detail. The Sunday set of fixtures saw Spal be condemned to further relegation woes as they lose 2-1 at home to Sassuolo, thanks to a Jeremy Boga last-minute header that saved my accumulator. Brescia drew 1-0 to Udinese. Napoli, as I say, lost 3-2 at home to Lecce. Genoa beat Cagliari 1-0, as you predicted, Sam. Well done.
Spoilers.
Oh, hello. Parma lost 1-0 at home to Lazio, thanks to a Felipe Caicedo goal. And Inter beat Milan 4-2 in the Milan derby. What that does for the table, Sam? Well, you'd be interested to know, because that shakes things up at the top. There is now 1 point between the top 3. It's really kicking off. There are no points between Inter and Juventus. It's simply down to goal difference. Inter have superior by 7 goals. And yeah, they've moved top thanks to that win and thanks to Hellas Verona beating Juventus. As Lazio won as well, they push further up into 3rd, well, they stay 3rd. Atalanta secure a little bit more secure in their Champions League spot in 4th. They should really re-qualify. Then Hellas Verona move up to the Europa League qualification spot, which is massive. They sit just ahead of Bologna, Cagliari and Parma. Milan and Napoli are still with a shout. But that'd be massive if one of Hellas Verona, Bologna, Cagliari or Parma get a Europa League qualification place ahead of Milan or Napoli. That'd be huge.
That'd be mad.
It'd be monumental. Relegation-wise, things have been shaken up a bit thanks to Genoa winning. Brescia got a point, meaning that Spal are still bottom, rock bottom. And Genoa...
That's for emphasising that, Archie.
You're welcome. I figured I'd rub salt into that particular fresh wound. But yeah, no, Genoa won, but Lecce responded by winning as well, as I mentioned. And they sit in 17th, Genoa 18th, Brescia 19th, and Spal rock bottom. Sam, would you like to run us through the fixtures, the results from the Bundesliga and the league table, please?
Yeah, sure. So, other than the games I've mentioned, Freiburg played... Hoffenheim and got what some people see as a surprise win, both going for Europa League places. Schmidt scored a penalty. Union Berlin won away at Werder Bremen 2-0 to compile misery upon that club that's going to get relegated.
Fair.
No, yeah. Wolfsburg drew 1-0 to Fortuna Düsseldorf, which isn't actually a terrible result for Fortuna. Bear in mind they're still... they're lumbering now in the relegation playoffs, as you'll find out in a second. Schalke won with Paderborn. I told Archie Schalke are going to drop points this weekend. He didn't listen.
No.
But he should have done. Yeah, brilliant result for Paderborn, and they look excellent, and they're surprising everyone. They really are. Gladbach against Cologne was unfortunately called off due to unsafe conditions to play the match and for fans. And then finally, Bayern Munich, Leipzig. You might think, why have you not covered this? It was 0-0. It was boring, and I'm very happy with that result.
Yeah, it's done wonders for you.
Exactly. So what does that do to the table, I hear you ask? So that Bayern Munich stay top of the league, 43 points, but just 1 point behind RB Leipzig on 42. Real opportunity missed for Borussia Dortmund, and if they'd have won by any scoreline, they'd have gone second, and they'd have been 1 point off the top.
Did Dortmund lose?
Yeah, Dortmund might have lost.
Really?
So they are on 39 points, just 3 points off second. Fourth are Gladbach, level on points with Dortmund, and Leverkusen take up fifth. And in the last Europa League qualification spot, that is Schalke, despite their poor result against Paderborn, with Hoffenheim and Freiburg both chasing him down. Just Hoffenheim 2 points and Freiburg just 3 points behind him. Then down at the bottom of the league, relegation playoffs is now Fortuna Düsseldorf, which is huge. They're out of the relegation zone for the first time in a while, as Werder Bremen drop in at 17th both on 17 points, and but Paderborn are bottom of the league on 16.
Surprising everyone.
16 points, but they will stay up. Mark my words. Click this now.
All right, okay.
All right.
Paderborn will stay up.
Paderborn will stay up,
Got some
and
hard
Werder
cash on
Bremen and Fortuna Düsseldorf will go down.
Ooh, I like that. Fair enough, mate. I like your faith in Paderborn there. Shall we go on to the last section of the podcast?
Let's do some predictions.
Prediction head to head. Should we kick things off with Serie A?
Yeah.
Should we go through? So just to run you through it again, very briefly. You get 1 point for the correct result, 3 points for the correct scoreline. We predict 3 games each from the 2 leagues. We split the games up into a big team game, a tricky to predict game, and a controversial pick. I'm going to crack right on with my big team prediction. Milan, I've got them to beat Torino 3-1. Torino are terrible. They're really, really woeful. They're probably the worst form team in the entire league. I really don't like them. I'm not going to bang on about Torino, but they're awful. And now I've said this, I'll go and beat Milan. I hope you're aware of this. So I hope you've predicted the complete opposite for your shock. Because Milan should beat them. I've gone with 3-1 just because Torino leak goals like mad. Defensively, they're just awful. Milan should really take a little bit of confidence from the Milan derby despite losing, just because of how well they played in the first half. If they can play it out in the whole game, they'll be all right. The other week, these two teams actually played each other at the San Siro in the Cup. It went to extra time, and Çalhanoğlu scored twice. Torino sort of ran out of breath, but I genuinely just think the only reason I think Torino did particularly well in that game was because it was a cup game. They all stepped up. In the league, they'll lose. Who have you got for your big game prediction, Sam?
I've got Juventus again after a very disappointing result away at Hellas Verona, where they lost. They've got Brescia again this week. Brescia this week.
Classic.
And they're going to be angry, and they're going to be seeking revenge after Sarri's been coming under a little bit of pressure now, isn't he?
He really has, yeah. Rumours of Allegri coming back.
Exactly.
Really strong rumours as well.
With the board I think are on his back a lot.
Getting impatient.
And
way too quickly.
I think a lot of the players are doubting him possibly.
Other than Dybala, I reckon Dybala would be the only one to see. Would be sad to see Allegri come back, because he didn't play under Allegri at all.
Exactly, and Dybala's playing quite well.
Yeah, he is.
Sorry, but yeah, I think that Juventus will be keen for revenge. Brescia aren't playing that well this season, and by that I mean they're second bottom. Despite the form of Torregrossa, I think he will score because I like him.
You do like him a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I think he's a great striker, and I think he's a Serie A striker. So if they go down, I think he'll stay.
He'll be one of those players.
But
who
I
gets
think
picked off,
Juventus will win 3-1. I think Ronaldo will score again because he's in an incredible scoring vein.
He's on a
So
great run of form.
3-1 Juventus.
I like the prediction, Sam. Let's go on to our tricky to predict game. The one that really stands out is a clash right at the top of the table. Again, another huge game for Inter. They travel to Rome to play Lazio. Now, my head is telling me that Lazio should win this game because they're on a really good unbeaten run, and they didn't look amazing against Parma, but they were still able to grind out that result, which shows that they're genuine title contenders, I think.
What's your heart saying?
My heart's saying Inter. My heart's only saying Inter, and part of my head's saying Inter. Basically, I think Inter will do relatively well. I think they've got too much quality to get beaten convincingly by Lazio. I reckon it'll be a close game. And Lazio going forwards have been decent recently, but they just haven't had that clinical play that they've had that defined their early play in the season at least, and their winning run that they went on. Which is why I think it'll be 2-2. I don't see either team keeping a clean sheet naturally, but I don't see either team taking this one particularly as a win. And I think both teams would bite your hand off if you gave them a draw. I mean, I think Lazio shouldn't necessarily expect to win this game despite being unbeaten.
But both dropping points on Juventus, who will probably win this weekend.
That
Surely
is true.
That's a negative.
That is
Do you
true.
really think title contenders will take a point at this stage of the season?
Against each other, yes. Because I think if one of them loses, I genuinely could see them going on a really bad downturn of form and just dropping out the title race. Because I don't think there's room for three at the top, Sam. I don't think there's room.
Well, I would say in a two-horse race, I think a draw between each of them is a fair result.
Yeah.
But in a three-horse race, which this season had ended up being, I don't think any side could have dropped to drop points.
That is fair enough. But I do think it'll be a draw. I think Lazio 2 with Inter. Lautaro Martinez isn't back. I don't think. I'm going to need to check that again. So while you're doing yours, I'll pipe up with Lautaro Martinez if he's back or not. But in the meantime, would you like to go on to who you're predicting? Are you predicting the same game?
I've chosen the same game because, let's be honest, it's definitely the hardest to predict this weekend. But I've gone with the logical decision, and I've put a 2-0 win for Lazio. I just think, as Archie is not very happy with me for that, I think Lazio, they've been really good this season. They've been on a long unbeaten run. Immobile's top scorer in the league. Inter have just beaten a tin pot club called Milan.
Oh, we've lost like half of any Italian.
I'm joking, but okay, a team. Yeah, that's
like the most successful club in Serie A history.
Harsh, but a team that haven't been at their best for several years. A team that have lost a lot of players, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic is their best player despite being 36 or 7, which kind of shows everything. And Theo Hernandez, who's very good as well, who's not even their player. So, AC Milan at the moment are not that great, and I don't think a win over them is necessarily the hugest result. As in, it's big in terms of it's a big derby, but it's not as in terms of quality. Archie, you look concerned.
Yeah, I'm slightly concerned. So, Lautaro Martinez is back, but Handanovic won't be. Which is what the rumour is that he won't be back. If Badelli has to play in goal again, then we might be screwed, basically.
But you're staying with 2-2, and I'm saying 2-0 Lazio.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, no, Martinez is back, as he is for the Coppa Italia game against Napoli.
What about your controversial pick? Let's move on to that.
Yeah, sure. So my controversial pick. There's not an awful lot of controversial games unless you're going to boldly predict Brescia to beat Juve. He's smiling at me. I think he might be. Okay, you know what?
Oh, well, Juventus Brescia is my first pick.
Oh, blimey. Well, yeah, no, that's a shout. So it's not going to be a controversial pick, is it?
Can't be both.
No, that's a very good point. Well, yeah, no, it couldn't be. My controversial pick is, on the face of it, doesn't seem too controversial, but when you look at the whole picture of the league, headbutting the mic. When you look at the wider picture of the league, this makes a little bit more sense. So I've got Udinese at home to Hellas Verona. I've got them to beat them 1-0. Now, as I say, on the face of it, doesn't seem huge, but Udinese currently sit 15th, and they're actually only 6 points away from relegation. And they're a decent team, Udinese. But in this particular game, they play Hellas Verona, who are 6th, high flying at the minute. I don't see it being high scoring, considering neither team can score goals very easily at all. Hellas renowned for their defensive play, but I think going to Udinese, I can see them picking up points. They pick up points in unlikely areas, Udinese do, and I believe that they could genuinely beat Hellas Verona and maybe bring them down a peg or two from this high flying run that they're on into this Europa League qualification spot. Who are you going with?
I have gone for Torino to beat AC Milan.
Hang on. Whoa, you're saying Torino are going to win a game of football?
I think that this game is going to kick-start their season.
Kickstart.
I think they've been
in
looking
February.
yeah, a bit late, but
Better late than never.
I believe that Milan will be wounded after their pride has been hurt after being 2-0 up and losing 4-2 to Inter. That is embarrassing. I don't care how good Inter are. That is an embarrassing result, and I just don't think Milan are that great this season, especially. And despite Torino being absolutely woeful, they've got a good striker in Belotti. You can't carry a team, but they're looking for a result that will really propel them forward.
Sure.
And if I'm not mistaken, Matt Sarri's been sacked.
Yeah.
And have they appointed a new manager?
They have got a caretaker at the minute, I
See,
believe.
I sometimes the caretaker can really galvanise a club and can really, in those games, change form.
I think in the intermittent week they're going to bring someone in. The caretaker manager took over for the game against Sampdoria, and they lost at home to them. Also, Torino defensively are shocking. Do you not see Milan scoring?
Yeah,
2-1. Oh, 2-1.
Sorry,
I
I think Torino will win
Apologies.
2-1. I think Milan will score, but I think Torino win. And yeah, Torino have their defensive frailties, but Torino actually have decent defenders individually. They just don't work together well. And if they could bring in someone who could really get a bit of chemistry between them and a bit of cohesion between them,
sure.
I think that they could go on a winning run just uptake in form.
It's a hot take. I like it. Milan are playing on Thursday against Juventus in the Coppa Italia. So they're going to be a little bit run down. They do play this game on a Monday, so they should have a few days to recover. But yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see how that one goes. Who are your Bundesliga picks, Sam?
Let's get straight into Bundesliga. So big team. I've gone controversial this, because are they a big team? RB Leipzig. They're a big team in terms of league position, but they're not a big team in terms of
history.
In terms of history,
sure.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think they need to win this game. Werder Bremen look awful. RB look alright. They have not been great recently. They've kind of declined a bit, but I think this game will be the game that picks them back up, puts them back on their title challenge, and 3-1 RB Leipzig.
I like it. My big team game to predict. I'm gonna go Bayern Munich. Away at Cologne, I can see them winning 3-1. I can't see anything really other than a Bayern win. Cologne are decent every now and then. I reckon they'll score. Bayern can be leaky defensively every now and then, but I see Bayern beating them 3-1 personally. Who's your tricky to predict game?
Augsburg against Freiburg. From the sound of it, it doesn't sound very exciting, but coming off of a 5-0 loss to Frankfurt, Augsburg have something to prove. They really do. They really have something to. They've got a lot of doubters, so they need to prove them wrong. And despite not necessarily being relegation threatened, they're bottom half of the league. Not necessarily having an incredible season, but not having the worst season. Meanwhile, Freiburg coming off just beating Hoffenheim, challenging for that Europa League. But I think this will be quite a tight game. And I think this is quite tough to call with Augsburg having the home advantage. I know people say that it doesn't make much of a difference, but in the Bundesliga, with the fans in the Bundesliga the German football fans are the best in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just for their noise and the way they get behind the team. So I think home advantage Bundesliga is very important. However, I could see Freiburg just having a bit too much quality for Augsburg. I think Freiburg will get a 2-1 away win.
I like it. I'm going with, and it might not seem necessarily tricky to predict on the face of it, but I'll tell you why. I'm going with Dortmund Frankfurt, because this is not an easy game to predict by any chance.
Oh, it's definitely not.
Just because 3-2 Dortmund I'm going with. I'm going with a high scoring affair because neither team can really defend too well. Frankfurt coming off of a really big win. Could go into this game with a lot of confidence. Dortmund knocked by that game against Leverkusen. I can see them struggling, but I can see them eventually taking the win. Neither team's going to keep a clean sheet in this game. Let's be real. It'll be a fun game for the neutral, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm going with a 3-2 Dortmund win, and they'll continue their title charge. Who's your controversial pick, Carl?
To finish, I'm gonna bring back my boys from last week. They didn't quite do the business, but I said they'd drop, that they'd make Schalke drop points. They did. They've got a huge game this week. They're bottom of the league, and they're playing Hertha Berlin, who are without a manager, of course, after Klinsmann has left. Whether they appoint someone in the meantime, I'm not sure, but I think Klinsmann leaving could have a negative effect on the team. So Paderborn need a result. Hertha Berlin are near the 6 points away from the drop zone. Of course, they were in the drop zone, but now they're a bit clear, but they're still near the bottom. Paderborn have the home advantage. 1-0 Paderborn. They're going to do it. They're staying in the Bundesliga.
I like it a lot, Sam. I've said that every time after you've done it, by the way.
I like that a lot, Sam.
That's my phrase. I like that a lot. My controversial pick of the Bundesliga is Bayer Leverkusen. They visit Union Berlin, and I've got Union Berlin to beat them 2-1.
Ooh.
I know. Not an awful lot of logic to this. I just figured, you know what? Let's push the boat out and let's see where we land. We land in Berlin, and I reckon Union Berlin are going to do the business over Bayer Leverkusen, despite doing very well against Dortmund. I reckon they're going to come crashing back down to earth.
So you've basically looked at the list, looked at the fixtures, and just thought,
what's the most controversial?
Yeah, they're all right.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no, I don't. Union Berlin are decent. I reckon they'll pick up the odd
play,
giant
mate.
killing.
It could happen. I could see it happening.
Fancy their chances. Let's just quickly run through the fixtures and then we'll do a little plug, shall we?
Let's do it. Go.
Sounds good. Okay, quick fire. Saturday, 15th of Feb, we have got Lecce. They take on Spal in a huge relegation battle. Bologna take on Genoa. Bologna looking to go even further, and Genoa looking to crawl out of those relegation places. Atalanta take on Roma in a massive match for the Europa League. For the Champions League qualification places. Then the Sunday sees a whole host of fixtures with Udinese taking on Hellas Verona on the 11:30 kickoff. Juventus host Brescia. Sampdoria host Fiorentina. Sassuolo host Parma. Then the later kickoffs include Cagliari hosting Napoli and Lazio taking on Inter at the top of the table, with a Monday fixture of Milan against Torino to finish off this Serie A weekend.
Now over to the Bundesliga. So the weekend starts with Dortmund-Frankfurt on the Friday night. Huge game and a tough one to predict. Now on to Saturday. Hoffenheim-Wolfsburg. Union Berlin, who are apparently going to beat Bayer Leverkusen. Augsburg-Freiburg. RB Leipzig against Werder Bremen. Paderborn and Hertha Berlin, huge game at the bottom of the table. Fortuna Düsseldorf against Gladbach, which is a big game for both sides at opposite ends of the table. Then moving on to Sunday, Cologne have got Bayern Munich, and Mainz finished the weekend with Schalke.
Very nice. So that is it. Obviously we'll plug our socials. Sam, do you want to kick us off?
On Twitter, Sam Cole 2468.
There you go. Go drop it a follow at Arch Corbett over here. And I've made a tipster account, guys. I had a big win at the weekend that came in. £10 free bet came in, won £200. I was sat there tearing my hair out watching Betis Barcelona. Thankfully, Barcelona came in with the goods. But yeah, if you want to follow that, it's at Archie Tips. I did a bet yesterday despite there being no games, and that didn't come through. So if you want to follow it and lose your money, crack on. But always gamble responsibly. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for listening. There'll be a full English coming up on Thursday,
exactly.
And then we'll be back round with the usual schedule with hopefully a few more bits of content coming up.
We got content coming up, and I'll leave you. Exactly. We got plans for the future, some big things for you guys. But I'll finish with the rumour: Jesse Lingard potentially going to Roma. See you later, guys.